Hello everyone, it's Joe here from Draft FPL, and today we are looking at underperforming assets, what you should do if you own them. Should you hold them, try and trade them off, or if you don't own them, should you be looking to make trade offers for these players? So for each of the players we're going to look at, we've got some stats courtesy of Fantasy Football Hub. As always, if you're interested in having a look for yourself, check out my link in the description down below. I put a message in the Discord server to see what players people wanted to be featured. These were the most requested, so let's get into it. First up, and the player that probably gave me the idea for this video, to be honest, as I own him in quite a few leagues and I wanted to take a deeper look into the data to see if he was worth holding on to, is Kai Havertz. So you can see from his touch map up in the top left hand corner there, he is for the most part playing in midfield. We know that he's playing that kind of left number 8 role, but he is getting into the box a decent amount. He's averaging 4 touches in the box per 90 minutes, which is not bad, especially for someone that's playing in central midfield for the most part. The minutes have not been an issue at all. 235 minutes over the 3 games is pretty much as good as you could hope for. So the problem has been the finishing and, actually getting those points on the board, which is the main thing. So the kind of question you have to ask yourself is, these stats are pretty good. This, expected goal involvement per 90 minutes of 0.39 is perfectly adequate. For someone of his kind of value, a third, fourth round midfielder for a 10-man league. If you can get a return every sort of 2.5 games, that is perfectly enough. You're looking at 15 per season, something like that. That will do nicely. The question is, you have to ask yourself is, do you think he's capable of actually getting the ball in the back of the net for those returns? I personally am actually a little bit reassured looking at this data, and I do think the returns are going to come. At least one shot in the box per 90, 2 chances created. He's getting in all the right positions. We know how good he is at getting into space. The problem with him always has been the final pass and the final shot. So a bit of a slow start for him, but I'm not too worried. I think as we go through and you see the data for some of the other players, this is a perfectly fine situation to be in. Obviously no returns yet. The fixtures have been quite good, which is a bit of a shame. But if he can keep these numbers up, I'm confident he'll get a decent amount of returns. Would I look to trade him in? Maybe. There will be managers out there that are very frustrated and just want to get rid. If you can get him in for someone that is, not a great pick, then I definitely think you should try it. One of the sort of bottom tier midfielders that people have drafted, those 5th mid types, the likes of John McGinn or maybe Abdoulaye Doucouré, then I definitely think it's worth it because he's a cut above those kind of picks. Now I think is probably the worst time to try and trade him out because his value in the eyes of the majority of people is going to be really low. On to the next one, and kind of the other end of the spectrum, Cody Gakpo. So 183 minutes over the 3 games, so that's about 60 minutes per game, is kind of what I would have expected. I do expect him to start the majority and then get brought off after about 60 minutes. The problem is, in those 60 minutes, he's not been productive at all. For the first 2 games, he played in that kind of attacking midfield role behind Diaz, Jota and Salah, and for me that is just a little bit too deep for him. It's really not ideal. You can see from his touch map, he's got loads of touches in his own half, loads of touches in central midfield, and not too many in the box. If you even if you look back and compare this to Kai Havertz, he's playing deeper than Havertz is, which is a bit worrying. And you can tell 2.5 touches in the box per 90 minutes, especially when he only really plays 60 minutes per game, is not ideal. The expected goal involvement is really poor, 0.16. That's like a return every 7 games, something like that you'd be expecting. That is not good. 1 shot in the box, 1.5 chances created. I would have thought that if he's been playing in this role, at least he would have been creating chances, but 1.5 chance created per 90 minutes isn't really good enough either. So it has been a bit of a tricky start for Liverpool. Obviously, they've gone to St James's Park and we're down to 10 men for the majority of the game. That, can't really be helped. They've also gone to Stamford Bridge, but even in that Bournemouth at home game, he didn't really get many, numbers on the board, which is a little bit worrying. It can only really get better from here. I expect this to be about the worst Gakpo will be performing all season. And as someone that does own him in a couple of leagues, I'm not looking to trade him out at the moment because everyone knows where he's been playing and how bad he's kind of looked. Not bad, he's not playing badly, he's just not involved in the final third, which, everyone's seen that. With Endo coming in, maybe that will promote him to be a bit more attacking, a bit more in the final third. We'll have to wait and see. The problem is Darwin coming off the bench yesterday and scoring a brace really doesn't help his case, especially as Jota's been playing well, Diaz is playing well. He's kind of looking like the odd man out at the moment. I think if you can get a good deal off maybe a Liverpool fan, then, trading him out could be an okay, scenario if you can get like an equivalent forward for him. But I don't see many people giving up like an Isaac or a Watkins for Gakpo at the moment. So, in my opinion, the best thing to do is just sit tight and hold and hope that the positional changes and the team improves with the better fixtures coming up, and hopefully Gakpo can start pushing his numbers up and get back to kind of the highly rated forward that we had pre-season. Next up, we've got Eze. 270 minutes, 3 90-minute performances from Eze, 7 points, no returns. But there are some very, very encouraging signs. The heat map looks really strong. This is exactly where you want to see him, just outside the edge of the box, in that kind of left half space, looking to break into the box. And I have been really impressed with him so far, especially as they've had some tough fixtures. They've had Arsenal at home, Brentford away. Both are tough. Sheffield United away was the good fixture to start with, and he did blank in that, but he could have easily returned with the amount of chances he created and shots he had. So XGI per 90 of 0.58 is very strong. A return every other game would, see him as probably one of the top 5 midfielders, maybe top 10. So that is very encouraging. 5.5 touches in the box per 90 is very strong. You can tell he's really pushing up to alongside and beyond the striker with those kind of numbers. And over 2 shots in the box per 90 is perfectly good as well. 3 chances created per 90. That's the kind of thing we would expect to see from Eze. He's on penalties and he is the main man at Palace at the moment. I am looking to trade him in. So hopefully people in my leagues aren't watching at the moment. I don't actually own him in any leagues, and I kind of wish I did, because I think now is a brilliant time to bring him in if there is an owner in your league that is a little bit frustrated. I would be spamming trade offers left, right and centre, because with these kind of stats, if he keeps this up, he is going to explode. There's no doubt about it. So he is definitely someone I'm looking to target. If I owned him, I would certainly be holding. I don't think there's many people that are going to be offering you big players to trade for him. So it's definitely a time to just sit and wait for the points to come. Next up, we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, someone that's been very frustrating, especially that people that took him in the first round. 254 minutes, 2 90-minute performances, and one where he came off with a knock. So that's very encouraging. Only 4 points, no returns. It has been a bit of a struggle for Trent so far, and the numbers are not particularly good. XGI of 0.18 is pretty low. It's very low, especially for Trent with his history. And the one that stands out for me as being particularly low, touches in the boxes, shots in the box. We don't see too much of that from Trent, even at his best. But the one that stands out for me is chances created. Only 1.4 per 90 is way down on his most productive last season. That could be because of the calibre of opposition, the fact they've gone down to 10 men, the way they've been setting up with Szoboszlai and Gakpo in the sort of attacking midfield roles. They seem to have stifled Trent's attacking threat a little bit. Especially Szoboszlai, I think, might just be, picking up a lot of the spaces that Trent likes to go in. So that is a bit of a worry. I do think he's still probably one of the best defensive picks in the game, just because of his past history. We know he's gone through bad spells before, but he always seems to turn it around and have a strong period of the season where he just cannot stop getting goals and assists. So I'm not too low on him yet, but there are some worrying signs. The heat map's not too bad, to be honest. There's plenty of touches in sort of central midfield and in the advanced wide right area, where the two places he's going to make the most amount of input. Liverpool's defence, when we're looking at his clean sheet potential, XG conceded per 90 of 1.54 is quite bad. You'd probably expect from those sort of numbers, if they carried that on over the season, maybe 10 clean sheets over the season, which isn't horrendous, but it's not ideal, and it's a long way away from their peak where they were getting close to 20 every year. And they're currently ranked the 8th best defence in the league, which again is not quite as high as you'd hope if you'd drafted Trent first round. And they have been playing pretty much their first choice goalkeeper and defenders. Van Dijk's obviously got a suspension next week as well. Konate's now injured. There are some worrying signs. They struggled to sign a defensive midfielder as well. So I don't think it's a good time to bring Trent in, especially until the team is a little bit more settled and looks a little bit more defensively solid, because the clean sheets are quite an important factor for Trent. Even though he is going to get a lot of attacking returns, you do need that underpinning of clean sheets to make him that first round pick that we would hope for. So not a time to bring him in, probably not a time to trade him out either though, because his value is so low at the moment. If you can find someone that is still willing to believe he's a first round pick and will do a trade with you for another one of those first round picks, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, because as I said, their defence is looking quite poor. The chances created are low. So if you can get someone like a Son, who owner might be frustrated, or maybe a Diaz, I would probably do it, to be honest. If you don't own, I probably wouldn't be looking to bring him in. Just those chance created numbers and the XG conceded not quite high enough to think he's going to blow up over the next few weeks. It might take a little bit longer than that, and we might see some signs that he's getting better, and that would be the time to jump on before he gets the returns in. Next up, we have Marcus Rashford, the only player in this video to currently have some returns. He got 2 assists in the game against Forest, but I do still think he's underperforming, considering he's a lot of people's sort of 3rd, 4th pick in the overall draft. 261 minutes over the 3 games is perfectly fine. 12 points thanks to those 2 assists at home to Forest. But when you look at the fixtures they had over the first 3, it is still a little bit worrying. Wolves at home, Forest at home, and Tottenham away, who haven't looked like the best defence by any means so far. I think it is still a bit worrying that he's only got 2 returns from those 3 games, and one of the returns was winning a penalty. When we look at the data, it's not too bad. XGI per 90 of 0.55 is certainly lower than we would have hoped for one of those absolute premium picks. I would hope to see something around the 0.75 and up mark for someone like Rashford. You want to see a return in 3 out of 4 games really from him over the course of the season, not closer to 1 in 2. So that is a little bit lower than I'd like. United haven't really been clicking as an attacking force so far. You can see from his touch map, obviously he played central in the first 2 games and it didn't really work for him. I personally do not like seeing Marcus Rashford play through the middle. I think he's so much better off the left. But the data's not that bad. Touches in the box 7 per 90 is okay. It's not amazing. Shots in the box just under 3 per 90. Again, it's okay. It's good enough, but it's not really where you want to see him. You would hope those numbers improve a little bit. I must admit, after those 2 assists, if someone in your league is looking to bring him in, I don't think it's a terrible time to make the switch, especially, you know, there are some Salah rumours swirling around about Saudi Arabia. I personally don't think there's any chance really that he goes in this window. So I think if someone was offering you the straight swap to Salah for Rashford, I would definitely take it. There obviously aren't that many people around that are going to be offering that, but if there is a United fan that's excited by those 2 returns, I would definitely look at it. I think if you could get Saka for Rashford, I'd personally be tempted to do that as well. I just think that, you know, with these numbers, United haven't been exactly a free-flowing goal-scoring machine under Ten Hag. They've never really battered teams, which is a bit of a worry because it's ideal if you can get attackers from teams that just score goal after goal after goal, and United don't really do that. They never really have under Ten Hag. So I still think he's a good pick. He's performing okay. As long as this is his kind of baseline, then it's fine. But you wouldn't want to see these numbers get much worse from here. Hopefully for Rashford owners, they will go up a little bit back to that sort of 0.75, 0.8 XGI per 90 that we'd like to see from him. The final one we're looking at today then is Heung-Min Son, minutes 254, so that is perfectly adequate. He's getting the bulk of the minutes, although he has been subbed off a couple of times. 8 points, no returns, not ideal and a bit worrying if you do own him, but the data is mixed, I would say. XGI per 90 of 0.35 is too low to sustain a good season for Son. We need to see that in the kind of range that Marcus Rashford's in at the moment, 0.55 and above really. So that is too low. The problem with Son at the moment is so crystal clear from his heat map. Look at where the majority of his touches are, so wide. Son's best attributes are coming in the inside forward area, through on goal and finishing those chances off, and he's not getting the opportunity to do that in Postecoglou's system when he's playing on the left. 8.5 touches in the box per 90 is really high. That is a really good number to see. The problem is he's converting 8.5 touches to only 1.1 shots. So, of every 8 touches in the box, he's only getting 1 shot off, which is massively reduced from his normal ratio. And the reason is, when you look at his touch map, most of those touches in the box are so wide that he can't shoot from those positions. I think the best thing we could see from Son's point of view is a situation where Spurs buy a winger and Son starts playing in Richarlison's current role. I think that would work really well for Son and for the team, because Richarlison, I could have put him in this video, but frankly, it's not worth it. I think his performances have kind of spoken for themselves, really. He looked really frustrated in the game against Bournemouth and had an absolute stinker. So the problem with Son is his position, and I think if the position changes, we'll see him back to his best. If he carries on in this wide role, 2.8 chances created per 90 is pretty good. I think he'll tick along with assists. He will still get the odd goal because he's got such quality, but I don't think he'll be the pick that we hoped he would be at the start of the season. I think the best thing that we could see for Son is if that position changes to a centre forward role, and as soon as that happens, I'm looking to bring him in. But at the moment, when he's playing wide on the left, honestly, I'm just not that interested. I do own him at the moment, and if this position continues, as soon as he gets a haul, I'm probably going to be offering him out. I'm not going to be offering him out at the moment because obviously with no returns through the first 3 games, there aren't going to be that many people that are interested. So now's probably not the time to sell. It's definitely not the time to buy. You just kind of have to be patient, hope that either his position changes or he runs into a haul, and then you can offer him out. Okay everyone, that wraps up my underperforming assets, whether to hold, buy or sell. If you enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button. For more content, check out the Patreon down below. If you're interested in all the data in this video, it can be found at Fantasy Football Hub. A link to that in the description as well. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next time.